In today's video, I'm going to be using a MISTI stamping tool. You can use any stamp positioner, but I'm going to show you lots of different ways to use it other than just stamping. And we're going to make all these. Peekaboo, peekaboo, peekaboo. Stay with me.
Meet my MISTI, which stands for the most incredible stamping tool invented. This is the original MISTI back from when it first released, so it's seen lots and lots of love. I use it with a bar magnet. It has ruler grids. Now, the original one comes pink, but she also began to sell stickers, so I covered my pink up with white, with a white little sticker. And it has a foam insert there, which can also be used as a mouse pad, by the way. And so you can use it with clear stamps or rubber stamps. There are many stamping platforms on the market. I like the MISTI because it was the first one that was ever invented. So I stick to this and see no reason to change it. So this is what I'll be using throughout the video. As always, all the supplies that I am using are linked in the visual playlist below in the description for you. My last video, I accidentally linked some weird noodle video, some video of some guy eating noodles. I don't know if you saw that, but I'm like, I don't even know how that got in my history to copy. It's like, what is that? But anyway, so it's been fixed since then, but you know, how embarrassing. I had people be like, yeah, I'm clicking on this playlist and it's, you know, some guy eating a bunch of noodles. Anywho, off topic. So here I am using my MISTI. I'm using some clear stamps. I put my paper in that right-hand corner, so it's always in the same place. If my magnet slips or if I don't have a magnet, as long as my paper stays in the exact same place, I'm able to get perfect coverage every single time as far as my placement of my stamps. I have used acrylic blocks and messed up on my stamping and tried to line it up, which in theory you should be able to do because it's a clear stamp, but it's never perfect. It's never completely right. So this is perfect for stamping, double stamping. If you ink up your stamp and you don't get the best impression the first time, as long as you don't move your paper or your stamp, it's going to remain, you know, a line and you can stamp it again. So here I am just doing multiple cards here. I put several pieces of cardstock down there and I've lined up this stamp from Altenew. Now the thing I like about Altenew stamps is it always comes with an inspiration guide kind of tucked in the stamp. So I'm actually using a layout from the project samples that they provide with you, which is totally okay. That's why they give it to you. So here I am again, just lining it up, and I'm able to do mass production here. You just ink it up. You can use the same color and keep it, you know, it'll go a lot quicker because you don't have to clean your stamps in between. Here's the double stamping I was telling you about. This is actually wood grain cardstock, so it's very, very textured. So I would never get a perfect impression of stamping the first time because of the texture. So I was able to use my MISTI to stamp it 2 or 3 times to get that solid stamp really filled in nicely. I'm also able to do the mass production of the sentiments as well with the MISTI. So again, as long as you keep your paper and your stamp in the same place, you will, I mean, this is heaven. I can't tell you how many times that this particular product has saved my projects. So I'm just going to be finishing off these cards as we go through all the different techniques that I'll be using with the MISTI. And here's a look at this card. I've already completed a couple through my babbling. Yeah, let's move on. Let's finish out these cards. So these are very simple. And again, I was able to mass produce these very quickly using the MISTI. So I'll just do a couple of different things with each one. This one I sprayed on some Distress Oxide. And I mean, I think that's pretty cool looking, right? Now this is some gloss spray from Dino Wakely. Again, everything I'm using is linked below, even the colors. And so this is actually paint. And that's the first time I've ever used that. And I just flicked it on with the stick. And it's pretty stinking nifty. I'll have to play with that some more in a future video because I bought a ton of colors. Okay, here I am using a cling stamp. And this is a thicker stamp. It's a rubber mounted stamp. So I'm going to remove that foam insert or mouse pad, if you want to call it. Now there's a couple ways I use it. This is a full background stamp. So I can't nudge it in the corner like I did previously because then I won't get the full image stamped up. So here I know I just align it under there is a verse under the words "My Sweet Petunia," so I just visually line it up. But I'm going to show you a better way to do that because that might not work for everyone because there's nothing holding that in place. That paper could easily slip. So here I am doing the double stamping again. I didn't get a perfect impression the first time, so I'm going to just press it down in place again. And because the paper hasn't moved and the stamp hasn't moved, what a bang. It just deepened that color up and it filled in all the areas that I missed the first time when I was stamping. Now, this is another product you can use. This is mono removable adhesive. So it's just adhesive that you can put on your project and then you can just push it away with your finger when you're done because it's removable. You can also use like a purple tape or something on the back hand side of your paper to hold it in place, or you can use the Pixie spray from ThermoWeb, which is used for stencils to hold your stencils in place, but it works for your paper just as well. But I'm using this removable adhesive because I had it, and here I am showing you different ways to use the MISTI. This is, I mean, you would not be able to do this with an acrylic block. I just don't think you would. I am just I'm adding multiple different colors of ink to this background. I mean, think how hard it would be if you were using an acrylic block or something trying to line this up every single time. I want different colors in different places, some overlapping, some not. I am cleaning the stamp in between. I didn't keep that on the video because that'd be boring, but I basically just use a microfiber cloth and water and just clean off that stamp before adding a new color to the stamp. And this particular stamp set has a coordinating die, so I'm going to run both of these through my die cut. And this first card, I'm going to create a shaker with. I am using some plastic storage pockets that I have that I'm not using, and I'm just cutting it down. Any kind of plastic, acetate, or whatever, even the trash, you know, that your stamps come in, not the trash, the plastic bag that it comes in, you can use that too, anything that's clear. I'm going to glue that down using my new favorite glue. It's fantastic. I love it. I've talked about it in previous videos before, and the refill is in the shape of a bear. Hello. But this glue goes on white and dries completely clear, so I'm able to see what I'm doing, where I'm putting my glue, etc. To create the barrier for the shaker, I'm just going to add some foam tape. I'm going to double it up. So I'm just kind of, I remove the backing paper because it makes the tape easier to bend. And I'm just going around the circumference of that windowed area. I did use an anti-static tool, so none of my sequins or whatever I'm using for my filler will stick. And then I did add some of that glue to the foam tape as well. I want to make sure that whatever paper I'm using for my backer really sticks good. So this is some random sequins I have. I have no idea where they're from. I've had them forever. I use them as decoration in my craft room for color because I'm not really big on sequins, like putting them on my cards. So I use them for shakers when I make them. So here I am adding some foam tape. The back of this card is so ugly, isn't it? Isn't that just so horrible? I also use some purple tape to make sure that plastic stays put. And then I'm going to put the backer paper on, which is a beautiful piece of purple mirrored cardstock. And here's my little shaker. And then I took a die cut and cut it from that same purple mirrored cardstock, and this card is done. Now for the other card, which was the multicolored we did with the MISTI, I'm keeping it pretty simple because that background with all the colors is really the highlight of this. So I'm just going to adhere this to a piece of yeller, that's not a word, that reminds me of Old Yeller, that movie was so sad. Anyway, yellow cardstock, and then I'll just take this die cut here out of my magic mug that I keep referring to. In my last video, I think I failed to add it, but right up here in the top right hand corner right now, I'm linking to a video where I talk about my magic mug, and that's where I'm pulling all of these random die cuts and sentiment strips from to pull together these cards. And here I am adding two of the little sequins that were sitting on my desk, and that's this card here. Pretty, pretty, pretty. All right, now this is going to be my favorite card out of all of them. I'm just telling you. So I'm using my MISTI. This is a stamp set I love. I've used it in several videos and recent projects, and I'm using the MISTI, of course. I removed the insert because this is a rubber stamp, and this I would never, ever, 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 ever be able to get if I didn't have my MISTI, okay? It's just that simple. So I inked up the stamp with some Juniper Mist ink. All the inks I'm using, the colored inks, are from Catherine Pooler, and this stamp set is from Catherine Pooler, and I love it, and it has a coordinating die that's awesome that you're going to see in just a second. So here it is very light. So I inked up the stamp, and then I kind of wiped some of the ink away with a microfiber cloth. Then I said, let me get out my blending tool. So I decided to use a blending tool instead. I'm basically kind of buffing out those hard lines that is left from the ink pad. And I'll do it again here in just a second so you'll see what I mean. So I'm just really applying pressure, and I have now added this dimensional shading just from the ink and the MISTI. So here you can see a little harsh line right there, so I'm just a little buffing it out. That's all I'm doing, just buffing out the lines. I can also soften areas of ink where I want it to be softened, and etc. But because the paper hasn't moved, the stamp's in the same place, and I'm using the MISTI, I am able to get this gorgeous result. And I'm not even done yet. So now I'm going to go ahead and intensify the center of that image as well. All this shading is from one color ink, the MISTI, and one stamp. And it's so easy to achieve, seriously. This is by far my favorite card. So here's the coordinating dies. You can cut each little area of this stamp set out. I'm only going to use 3 of the dies, but each area can be cut out with a coordinating die. That's another reason that makes, in my opinion, this stamp set so unique. So I'm using my purple tape here from ThermoWeb to secure it in place, and I'll run it through my die cutting machine. I use the Gemini Junior, and then I've got all these little pieces here. So you don't have to use the die, of course, but hello, I love the die. So I'm deciding, do I want a horizontal or vertical card? I went with vertical because I'm boring. And I'm going to lay the first panel down flat. Here's that glue that I love so much. That precision tip is everything. And it's really strong, great glue. And like I said, it goes on white so you can see where you're putting the glue, but it dries completely clear. So if you have any glue that smushes out all over the place, not to worry, because it's invisible. So I'm going to pop up some different panels with some foam tape, different levels of foam tape. So I'll double up, triple up, quadruple up on the foam tape just to get the look that I want. This is a very dimensional card when this is done. And then the shading really stands out that we got from doing the stamping with the MISTI. So this has 2, I'm holding up the number 2 here. This has 2 layers of foam tape. So basically I put foam tape down and then added another layer. This one has 1 layer of foam tape according to my finger. So I'm pushing that down in place. I'm fitting it like a little puzzle piece. So it kind of like the dimension is a little wonky. It gets higher than lower, then higher than lower, or whatever I'm doing. Now this one has 4 pieces, so that center piece is got the most dimension, and then I'm offsetting that center flower as well, so some of that blue cardstock background really shows up. I am going to add a little bit of glue back there because I don't want that one little piece falling off. So this card, I'll cut off all the back of the excess with my ginormous weapon of scissors. Beware, robbers, beware. And then I'm going to flick up the edges of that little part of the image there. And I'll add a die cut here. And again, this glue is great for these little intricate die cuts because of that precision tip. And this card, oh my gosh, it's my absolute favorite out of all these cards. I don't even think I'm going to get rid of it because I like it so much. I do whack my glue bottle down, if you're wondering why I do that, just to make sure the glue doesn't get stuck in the nozzle. But this card is everything, and all that stamping and all that shading is from the MISTI and 1 ink color. For reals. All right, moving on to faux watercoloring with the MISTI. This is a rubber stamp, so yes, I removed the insert. And it's a beautiful floral image, and I am using these Arteza markers. I have a 10% off coupon down in the description for you. It has a brush tip and a fine tip. They're like twin markers, I don't know. It comes in a set of 48 or a set of 100. You can brush letter with them, but my handwriting sucks. So it has a brush tip, a fine tip, and here they are water reactive. So I'm using them to color on this image to get a beautiful watercolored look. This video is also sponsored by Skillshare, which if anyone who knows me knows, I do love me some Skillshare classes. Skillshare has so many different classes. It is unbelievable. If you want to learn about cooking, woodworking, how to use your iPad, how to use different apps, how to do photography, how to tie your shoelaces. I don't know. It has it. It has it all on Skillshare, and I love it, and I use it all the time. I do have a 2-month free coupon for the first 1,000 people that use my link. That is also below in the video description, so be sure to take advantage of that if you want to check out what Skillshare is. It's a very affordable platform. It's less than $10 a month, and I can't recommend it enough. So once I've got all the color down with the markers on the stamp, I'm going to spray it with water and press it onto a piece of cardstock. And I added a lot of water and a lot of color, so I was left with that beautiful, vivid print. I'm going to set that aside, let it dry. I'm going to stamp it again without adding any water on a second piece of cardstock. And then for the third cardstock, I'm going to get 3 prints out of this. I'm going to add a little bit more water, press it, lift it, and then I get this beautiful soft. All these flowers look like it's something I watercolored, but I didn't. It's faux watercoloring thanks to the MISTI. Now I'm going to work on that middle card a little bit because the colors are very vibrant and intense, and I lost a little definition from the flower. So because I have not removed that stamp from the MISTI and I'm putting the paper right back where it was, I'm nudging it in the right hand corner, I'm able to do this because my placement is going to be exact. So I added a little brown color, and I added some water, pressed it, and I'm still not completely happy with it, so I'm going to go in with the deeper brown, add a little bit more color around the edges. Now you can use these markers, by the way, without adding water, which I'll show you in just a second. I'm going to stamp it to show you it will transfer very nicely, but I wanted to keep the watercoloring look consistent, so but you're able to, I mean, I think that's very pretty. But because I wanted to keep the watercoloring look consistent, I went ahead and sprayed my stamp and then pressed it. And then we'll finish out these 3 cards. This one, I just stamped the word hello, and then I'm going to go through, I mounted it to a light purple card base, and then I'm adding my Nuvo glitter pen just for a little bit of shine for this card. And then I added the word die cut, so it says hello love. This is that very intense color that we just worked on, and it's really pretty there. I just added a die cut. So here's the final look at that card. That card is just stunning in my opinion. And then here's the Hello Love, which is the second print I got. And here's the third print I got, which is the lightest of all 3. So beautiful. Faux watercoloring. Thank you, MISTI. All right, so for this card, I'm using another rubber stamp set. So I removed that mouse pad or that foam sheet. I call it a mouse pad. I don't know why. Anyway, so moving on, I'm going to multicolor this one up again, just like I did on one of the other cards that I created. So I'm using all the same inks. I'm just kind of creating a little rainbow, well, not even a rainbow, just a multicolored background here. And once I have that stamp all inked up and I'm happy with how it looks, like magic, I just kind of fast forwarded through all that because you've already seen me do it on another project. I'm going to heat emboss this. These are Catherine Puller inks. They are able to be heat embossed because the inks stay wet a little bit longer. So I'm going to dump on some clear embossing powder from Wow. I love this embossing powder so much. I got the huge jar that will last well beyond my lifetime. Maybe I'll pass it down to my grandchildren. There's no way I'm going through all that embossing ink. And I'm going to dry it with my, oh my God, well, I think I put my face in there to say hi. Did you see that? Whatever. So anyway, that's nice and heat embossed. And I did want to show you the 2 markers. You got a brush tip and a fine tip if you're a good handwriting artist, which I am not. They are water reactive, just do keep that in mind. So I'm going to scribble right over the top of this because it's heat embossed. It's going to resist any color that I put down. That looks ugly. I know it does, but I'm going to spray the mess out of it with some water. And it's going to move all that color around. And I'm kind of turning the paper, adding drip marks, doing whatever until I get the look that I want. And then I'll set it aside to dry, or you can dry it with your heat tool. I did want to mention the heat tool I'm using is the Wow Dual Speed heat tool. It has 2 speeds, one to dry watercolor prints and a higher speed to dry heat embossing. And I do have a video up here in the right hand corner that talks about that heat tool if you were in the market for a new heat tool. Do check that one out. So I'm going to just use a die cut here. And both of these strips came out of my magic mug, by the way. Pretty much the whole assembly of these cards that I'm not stamping sentiments on came out of my magic mug. And here's a look at this card. So I got all the multicolored because I was able to use the MISTI to do that. And then I just did some heat embossing resist. Now this is another image that I just straight up stamped with some embossing ink and heat embossed it. And I'm going to use the back side of this stamp here. I like the shape of the stamp, but I'm not using the image of the stamp itself. I'm using the back side because it's completely flat and I like the shape. So I added 2 different colors of ink, sprayed it with water very liberally, and am transferring it to that image there. And I'm moving it around. I want to get some drip marks. I'm going to go in and add a little bit more pink because as I looked at that, I wasn't keen on the red because it looked like my little image was bleeding. So I'm adding more pink and pressing that down, and I love it. I can see where I'm stamping. I can see the image, and because I'm using the MISTI, you got it. It stays in the same place the entire time. And I just like the shape of that image. Look at the stamps that you have, flip them over, and if they have any unique images, you could, do the same. So this is almost like ink smooshing in a way, but I'm just using a stamp to help, and I'm able to visually see where I'm pressing my ink because I have the help of the MISTI. If you haven't already, please click on that subscribe button and notification bell to be notified anytime I upload future videos. I would so appreciate it. So I'm just going to mount this onto a red pre-cut and scored card base that I already had. And then these little guys are coming right out of my magic mug that were pre-cut, pre-colored, pre-whatever eons ago. I just store them in my magic mug, and it really makes pulling together cards, because I spent so much time on the backgrounds and stuff. I was drained, to be honest, by the time I was done with all this. So having my little magic mug is truly a time saver, and it just takes all the think work out of my emotionally decharged brain. So here's a look at that final card. So all of these cards that I created in the video today is thanks to the MISTI. I did all these at one sitting. I did, maybe I broke for a sandwich or something while some things were, or ice cream. Let's get real, Laurel. I had ice cream. And I was able to do all these thanks to the MISTI. It made things so much easier. So I just really believe having some kind of stamping platform, preferably the MISTI, is the way to go. It's going to change your stamping life. And there's so many different techniques and things you can do with the MISTI. This is just, I didn't even touch on all of them. These are just the things that I use them mostly for.
I think you need to check out this video. Click below after watching the one I just shared today. And do let me know if you have any recommended Skillshares classes that you have taken. Maybe I need to check them out too. So I need to add more to my class portfolio. So let me know and check the video below, and I'll see you next time.